Okay, I want you to picture a really stark contrast.
Okay.
On one hand, you have the absolute chaos of an American highway. Let's say somewhere in the Deep South.
Right. You can feel the humidity, the heat coming off the asphalt.
Exactly. And cars, huge trucks just screaming past at, 70, 80 miles an hour. It's loud, it's
Not
stressful.
a really visceral environment.
It is. And then right there on the shoulder of all that chaos, you see a line of men,
And they're wearing these bright saffron robes.
bright saffron robes, walking in total silence. No signs, no chanting, nothing political. Just walking step by step right next to these machines moving at lethal speeds.
It's a jarring image. It's like seeing two different worlds collide. You have this ancient, slow, deliberate path.
And then the high-speed, distracted, modern world right next to it.
And for a while, those two worlds just existed side by side. The monks walked, the cars drove.
Until they didn't. Until one afternoon, that high-speed world just, it swerved and slammed right into the peaceful one.
And that collision, that's really where our deep dive begins today. Because we're not just talking about a traffic accident.
True.
We're talking about a moment that tested the absolute limits of, well, human psychology. What happens when a mind trained for peace is hit with extreme, violent trauma?
So today we are digging into the story of the Walk for Peace USA 2026, and specifically the story of one man, From Mahadam from Sara.
He's a Laotian monk and abbot from a temple in Georgia.
And what happened to him on the side of that road? It's going to challenge everything you think you know about resilience.
You know, I think resilience is almost too small a word for this.
I agree.
We use that word when we bounce back from a bad day at work. From Hadam's story, it's about a fundamental rewiring of how a person can process suffering. I mean, losing a limb and calling it an offering.
So let's back up. Before we even get to the crash, we need to understand the mission. What was this Walk for Peace? Because, you don't just stumble upon a group of international monks on a highway in Mississippi.
No, you don't. This was, and still is, a massive undertaking. The project was started by a monk named Fra Ajarn Panyakara.
And the goal?
Incredibly ambitious. A 2,300-mile trek. On foot.
2,300 miles? That's staggering.
It is. They started at Wat Wai Dao Vipassana in Dallas, Texas. The plan was to walk through Houston, across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, up through the Carolinas and Virginia.
All the way to Washington, D.C.
All the way to D.C.
That's months of walking. Physically grueling. And it wasn't just one group of monks, was it?
No, and that's a really beautiful part of this. It was a kind of coalition of Theravada Buddhism. You had monks from Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Malaysia.
So a united front.
A completely united front. But what's really interesting is what they didn't bring with them.
The flag.
The flag. Usually you'd see the Stars and Stripes, the Thai flag, whatever. They deliberately chose to carry none of that. No national identity.
Just the Walk for Peace flag.
Exactly. It was a white bird symbolizing peace. And on its wings, 5 words: hope, compassion, loving kindness, harmony, and love.
So the whole idea was to strip away the borders.
Right. This wasn't about Thai monks visiting America. It was about humans demonstrating peace.
Which brings us to the dog. We have to talk about the dog.
We absolutely have to talk about Aloka.
Aloka.
Before the accident, if you saw this on social media, the main draw wasn't the deep philosophy.
It was the dog.
It was Aloka, the dog walking with the leader, Fra Ajarn Panyakara.
The first rule of the internet: if there's a dog, people will click.
And honestly, that kind of speaks to the atmosphere before the tragedy. It was a quiet journey. People were just confused. They'd see the monks and ask, "Why are you walking?" or "Where is D.C.?"
They couldn't believe the distance.
No. It was a local news blip, a curiosity, not a national conversation.
It was peaceful. Until it wasn't. Let's get to the incident itself, and I should warn you, the details are pretty rough.
They are, but they're necessary to understand what comes next. So the report says the accident was caused by a driver distracted by their phone.
Something you see every single day on the road.
We do. But at highway speeds, the physics are just unforgiving. This driver was doing about 67, 68 miles per hour.
Okay.
He looks up, sees the slow-moving group, and he panics. He swerves, and he hits the support vehicle that was trailing the monks.
And the support vehicle, that's a big, heavy car.
Right. And that impact, at nearly 70 miles per hour, it caused the support vehicle to just whip around like a battering ram.
And it struck from a hot dam.
It struck him directly. And you have to remember, he'd been walking for 7 or 8 days straight. He was already physically depleted.
He was in pain. I read he'd refused to get in the car earlier to test his endurance.
He did. So his body's already at its limit, and then it takes this catastrophic hit.
At that point, 99% of people would go into shock. You scream, you pass out, you panic.
But he didn't. This is where all those years of meditation training just kicked in. Instantly. He never lost consciousness. In Buddhist terms, he maintained sati.
Sati, that's mindfulness, awareness.
It's presence, awareness. He describes lying on the hot asphalt, his leg just shattered, and he starts doing a systems check.
A systems check.
Yeah, he's wiggling his toes, he's checking his head. He is calmly cataloging his own injuries, like a pilot checking a plane after a rough landing.
And his internal thought, this is a part I just can't get over. He said he felt relief.
Yes.
How? I mean, how do you feel relief when you're lying on a highway with a crushed leg?
You have to get into his worldview. His number one concern was not his leg. It was the state of his mind at the moment of death. He thought he might die right there.
And his thought was,
if I die now, I won't go to Apaya, the bad realms like hell, because my mind is clear.
so he was auditing his own soul in real time.
That's a great way to put it. He realized he wasn't angry, he wasn't hateful, he was calm. So in his mind, he was safe to die.
Which brings us to the driver. Because, if someone hits me because they're on their phone, I'm not thinking about the purity of my soul.
No, you're thinking about how angry you are. And that's the normal reaction.
But he felt no anger.
Absolutely none. He couldn't even really see the driver's face clearly, but he heard him apologizing. And right away, Mahadam saw it as just an accident. He recognized that the driver was suffering too.
Suffering from guilt, from shock.
Exactly. He forgave him on the spot, didn't waste a single bit of energy on blame.
That level of mental control, it feels almost superhuman. But while his mind was under control, his body was in crisis. They get him to the hospital, and the damage is just severe.
It was worse than a simple break. The impact was so violent that a 10-centimeter section of bone in his lower leg was just gone.
Gone. Not broken. Just disappeared.
Disappeared.
Yeah.
Pulverized or ejected at the scene. So the doctors are looking at this, and they give him two options. And he has to make this choice, while in trauma.
What were the options?
Option 1, try to save the leg. This would mean bone grafts from his hip, muscle grafts, metal rods. We're talking 10 or more surgeries.
And a long recovery.
1 to 2 years in a hospital, with no guarantee it would even work.
Wow. And option 2?
Amputation. Below the knee. Heal faster. Move on with life.
That is a nightmare choice. Keep your leg and lose 2 years, or lose your leg and keep your time.
And Fra Mahadam chose amputation almost immediately.
Why? I mean, I think most of us would cling to that hope of saving the limb.
It wasn't about him. It was about the mission. He told him he didn't want to be a burden. He didn't want the Walk for Peace to stall for 2 years while everyone waited for him to heal.
He didn't want to drain the project's resources.
Exactly. He did the math and decided that losing the leg was a smaller price to pay than stopping the work of the Dhamma.
Which leads to this idea of bucha. He didn't just see this as a medical choice. He reframed the whole thing.
This is the critical part. Bucha means an offering, like offering flowers or incense. Fra Mahadam decided to offer his leg.
He made his own lost limb a religious offering.
He used this analogy of a soldier. He said, if a soldier on the front lines loses a leg defending his country, he doesn't feel shame. He feels pride.
A sacrifice for a greater cause.
He sees himself as a soldier for the Dhamma. He actually said he felt proud to sacrifice a piece of his body to spread the message of peace.
That is an incredibly powerful reframing. It changes the whole narrative from I am a victim to I am a donor.
Exactly. He took control of the tragedy. And you see this again when he talks to the project leader for Ajaran Panyakara.
Who must have felt just crushed.
Oh, absolutely. He felt responsible. He wanted to keep the news quiet at first, maybe out of guilt, or to protect Fra Mahadam.
And Fra Mahadam said no?
She shut it down. He told the leader, don't apologize, don't hide this, use this, promote the project.
Use this.
He knew. He knew a quiet walk gets no attention, but a tragic crash involving a monk. That's a headline. He was willing to use his own suffering as a megaphone.
And he was right. It worked.
It worked better than anyone could have imagined. Before the crash, it was a local curiosity. After the crash, CNN, Fox News, everyone showed up.
But, and this is the key pivot, the story didn't stay about the crash.
No. If you'd been angry or suing the driver or just full of despair, it would have been a simple tragedy story. But because he was sitting in his wheelchair, smiling, laughing, comforting the people who came to see him.
The story became about the peace.
Yes, The American reaction was just overwhelming. People started flocking to the route. The sources say Americans, people with no connection to Buddhism, were crying, bowing, thanking the monks.
Why do you think it hit such a nerve?
Well, the monks used a term for what they saw in the Americans. Monkey mind.
Monkey mind.
It's a mind that's unsettled, just jumping from one anxious thought to the next, never still.
Which is pretty much the default setting for modern life.
Especially now. Politics, the economy, the 24-hour news cycle. The Americans they met were internally frantic. And then they see this man. He has every reason to be frantic. He just lost his leg.
And yet, he's the calmest person in the room.
He became a mirror. Seeing his calm quieted their monkey minds. It proved that this inner peace was actually possible, even when things go terribly wrong.
There's that one story that just nails this point. The young woman.
The suicidal woman.
Yeah.
This is the heart of the after story. A young woman came to see him after seeing the news clip. She was in a very dark place. She told him straight up, "You saved my life."
Just from seeing his reaction.
She said she had been feeling like her life had no value. But when she saw him lose a part of his body and call it an opportunity for gratitude, a bucha, something clicked. She thought, if he can find peace in that, I can find value in my life.
So it wasn't just a walk anymore. It was a live demonstration of the philosophy.
A living sermon. You don't need to speak the language to understand a genuine smile in the face of agony.
Okay, so we see the what and the why, but let's get into the how, because I think a lot of us are thinking, that's amazing, but I could never do that. Is he just built different?
He would be the first to tell you, no, it's not magic. It's a technology, a mental technology.
You mentioned the training, anapanasati.
Anapanasati, it means mindfulness of breathing.
Okay, break that down. How does just breathing stop you from freaking out when your leg is crushed?
Well, think of your mind as a boat in a storm. The storm is the car crash. The waves are pain, fear, panic. Without an anchor, the boat gets smashed on the rocks. Anapanasati is the anchor.
Okay.
The technique itself is simple, but it's not easy. You just focus your entire awareness on the sensation of your breath, in and out. Or you can use a mantra. He used Buddha or right, left when he was walking.
So it's about giving your conscious mind one single thing to hold on to.
It's about overriding the nervous system's panic response. When your body is screaming panic, the trained mind says, breath in. It creates a tiny bit of space between the feeling of pain and your emotional reaction to it.
And he was doing this in the ambulance.
In the ambulance, in the ICU. He said whenever the pain would spike, he would just go back to the breath. He treated the pain as just another signal, not as a catastrophe.
There's a quote from him that I think is the key takeaway here. The best time to practice meditation is when you are sick or in pain.
Such a provocative statement, isn't it? Most of us want to meditate when it's quiet, maybe with a candle burning.
On a calm Sunday morning.
Right. But he argues that's just practice. The game is when you're suffering. If your mindfulness falls apart the moment you get a headache, then it's not really working yet. Pain is the final exam.
That's a confronting thought. It shifts meditation from being about relaxation to being a survival skill.
Exactly. And he really emphasizes, and this is important for you listening, you don't have to be a Buddhist to do this.
Yeah.
He says, just know you are thinking, then come back to the breath. It's a universal tool.
So let's look at the big picture. The Walk for Peace starts as a quiet trek. A tragedy happens, and now the whole movement is bigger than ever.
It's the classic hero's journey, but in real life. The tragedy became the catalyst.
So the Walk for Peace actually succeeded because of the crash, not in spite of it.
I would agree completely. It proved the message was real. If they had just walked to D.C. without anything happening, it would have been a nice story.
A pleasant travelogue.
Right. But because Mahadam lost his leg and responded with such grace, it proved that peace really does start in the mind. It proved that external circumstances, even a 68-mile-per-hour impact, they don't have to control your internal state.
It's the ultimate lesson in what you can and can't control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can't control the traffic or the distracted driver, but we can control our reaction.
And Mahadam is recovering now. I know he's using a wheelchair and a walker.
Yeah, he is. He's healing, waiting for a prosthetic, but his spirit is incredibly high, and the walk is continuing.
That's the image I want to leave people with. The walk didn't stop.
No. And now, behind those saffron robes, there's a much larger crowd of Americans, just regular people, walking with them, looking for that same inner peace.
It really challenges our definition of a bad day. I was complaining because I got cut off in traffic this morning.
We all do it. A rude email, a coffee order gets messed up, and we let it ruin our peace.
And here's a man who lost a limb and called it a gift, an offering.
It puts things in perspective, and pretty aggressively. He's not asking us to go get hit by cars. He's just asking us to look at our own daily suffering, stress, pain, the grind, and ask, can I use this? Can I make this an offering? Can I maintain my sati?
Peace isn't a destination you walk to, it's the way you walk.
That's it. And if you can find it in an ICU, on an amputation table, then we can probably find it in our daily commute.
A provocative thought to end on, for sure. If a monk can view a catastrophic accident as an opportunity, what minor inconvenience are you letting ruin your day-to-day? Maybe it's time to just take a breath, check your systems, and keep walking.
Couldn't have said it better.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you on the next one.
Stay mindful, everyone.